1 year, one whole year since I walked away, since I stopped shrinking myself to fit inside someone else's rage, since I stopped mistaking fear for love. People think the moment you leave, that's when freedom begins. But those of us who have lived it, we know the truth. Leaving is not the end. It's the beginning of a war no one sees. The bruises fade, but the voice in your head, the fear in your body, the doubt in your heart, they don't vanish when the door closes. And when you finally breathe again, that's when the real healing starts. The first thing I noticed was the silence, not the kind of silence that makes you feel calm. No, this silence felt unnatural, like a room that used to be full of noise and chaos, and suddenly, everything stopped. It should have been peaceful, but instead I felt disoriented, like someone had pressed pause on a world I wasn't ready to live in. I remember standing in my kitchen, holding a cup of coffee, and realizing that for the first time in a long time, no one was yelling. No one was criticizing what I wore. No one was checking my phone. No one was watching me with that look that made me feel small, and yet, I still flinched when the toaster popped. I still checked over my shoulder when my phone buzzed. I still waited for something to go wrong because my body, it hadn't caught up to my freedom. That's what people don't talk about. How even after you leave, your nervous system is still trapped, like it's holding its breath, waiting for the next explosion, even when there's no one left to pull the trigger. There's this moment when you finally get away and you think you should feel strong, you should feel proud, but instead you feel empty, uncertain, because for so long your identity was built around surviving. Who are you now, without the constant need to defend yourself? That question haunted me. I wasn't just mourning a relationship. I was mourning the version of myself I had to become to survive it. And then came the thoughts, the second guessing, the twisted logic that abuse leaves behind. Maybe it wasn't that bad. They had a hard childhood. I wasn't perfect either. Abuse doesn't just break your heart, it distorts your memory. It gaslights you so deeply that even after it ends, you continue doing it to yourself. You start blaming yourself for staying, for not leaving sooner, for not being strong enough. You're surrounded by people who don't get it, they say, but it's been months. You should be over them by now. They're gone, what more do you want? But it wasn't just about leaving them. It was about learning to feel safe in my own skin again. It was about rebuilding a voice that had been silenced. It was about learning that love is not supposed to feel like walking on eggshells. This wasn't a breakup. This was a survival exit. And survival doesn't end when you walk away. That's when the real work begins. I used to think that once they were gone, once I walked away and shut the door behind me, everything would stop. The shouting, the gaslighting, the manipulation. But I was wrong because it didn't stop. It just changed form. It moved inside my head. Their voice didn't disappear. It just became my inner critic. And the worst part, for the longest time I thought it was me. There's this thing trauma does, especially trauma in intimate relationships. It confuses your brain. It teaches you that pain is normal, that fear is love, that walking on eggshells is just how relationships work. That's the twisted reality I lived in. And even after I left, that reality followed me. I couldn't make a simple decision without hearing them in my head. Why would you wear that? Do you even know what you're doing? You're lucky I stayed as long as I did. They were gone, but their voice lingered in the way I doubted myself, in the way I apologized for everything, in the way I couldn't trust a compliment. Here's the psychology behind it. When you're in a prolonged state of fear, your brain rewires itself to survive. This is called trauma conditioning. Your amygdala, the part of your brain responsible for detecting threats, becomes hyperactive. It sees danger where there is none. Your nervous system stays in fight or flight mode, even when you're just texting a friend or walking through a grocery store. You freeze at loud sounds. You flinch at raised voices. You second-guess your every move because once upon a time, the smallest mistake led to punishment. That's not weakness. That's your brain doing what it had to do to keep you safe. But here's the kicker. What kept you alive in that relationship can hold you back in freedom. Your mind doesn't recognize yet that the war is over. It still hears footsteps in the hallway. It still expects the mood to shift at any moment. It still thinks love comes with fear. And then there's the shame. The way certain smells, certain songs, certain places pull you back like a time machine. Your body remembers what your mind is trying to forget. And some days it hits out of nowhere. I'll be laughing at a show, then suddenly freeze because the main character says a line that sounds exactly like them. And I'm back in that apartment, back in that night, back in that version of me who couldn't speak, couldn't breathe, couldn't leave. And this is the part people don't see. They see you smiling now, functioning, even thriving, and they assume you're fine. But healing isn't always visible. You can't see the way I hesitate before trusting someone. You can't see the panic that rises when a door slams too hard. You can't see the hours I've spent unlearning what I was taught to believe about myself. Because abuse doesn't just hurt you in the moment. It changes how you see yourself, how you see love, how you see the world. But here's what changed everything for me. I realized that voice in my head, the one that tells me I'm too much, too emotional, too hard to love, is not mine. It's theirs. It never belonged to me. And every time I choose to speak kindly to myself, to stand tall, to take up space, I drown that voice out, slowly but surely. Healing didn't happen because I waited. It happened because I started listening to my voice again. And it was quiet at first, but now it's getting louder. People think healing is some grand moment, a switch you flip. One day you're broken, and the next you're fine, but that's not how it works. At least not for me. For me, healing has been 1,000 tiny choices, tiny moments where I showed up for myself, even when it was hard, especially when it was hard. I started small, really small. One of the first things I did, I changed the voice in my head every time I heard that echo. You're too sensitive. You're not enough. I'd pause and say out loud, that's not me talking, that's them. Then I'd ask, what's the truth? And I'd answer myself kindly, even when it felt awkward, because reparenting yourself means learning to talk to yourself like someone you love. I also began journaling, but not like a diary. I wrote letters to the version of me who stayed, who endured, who protected me the only way they knew how. I didn't shame them, I thanked them. Because survival isn't weakness, it's brilliance. It's proof that something inside me refused to give up. I created rituals of safety, simple things, a cup of tea at the same time every morning, locking my door and saying, I'm safe now, lighting a candle before bed, letting soft music play in the background. Those little anchors told my nervous system, you don't have to be on guard anymore. You're allowed to rest. And over time, my body began to believe it. I reached out to a therapist who didn't ask, why didn't you leave sooner? But instead asked, what helped you survive? To a friend who didn't try to fix me, just sat with me in silence. To support groups where I heard my story spoken by strangers and realized I wasn't alone, because healing isn't just about time, it's about connection. I stopped trying to move on. That phrase never made sense to me. It felt like abandoning a version of myself who still needed care. So instead, I learned to move with it, to carry the pain gently without letting it run my life, to say, yes, this hurt me, and I'm still here. That's not weakness, that's resilience. And every morning I tell myself the same 3 things: I'm safe, I'm healing. I get to choose how today feels, because power, real, lasting power, is reclaimed in the everyday moments, not in forgetting, but in choosing yourself. Again and again and again. 1 year since I chose to walk away, since I stopped trying to earn love by being smaller, since I finally said, this isn't love, this is fear. And no, the pain didn't disappear overnight. Some days it still echoes, still catches me off guard, still pulls me back to places I've worked hard to leave behind. But here's the truth. Just because you still feel it doesn't mean you're still in it. You're not trapped. You're not powerless. You are not the person they convinced you that you were. You carry the past, yes, but it doesn't get to define your future. Because every single day you get up and choose to keep going, keep feeling, keep healing, you are rewriting the story they tried to write for you. That is not weakness. That is strength in its rawest, realest form. Some days you'll feel like nothing can touch you. Other days it might feel like you're drowning in ghosts, but if you hear nothing else. Hear this, you are still here. You've fought battles no one saw. You've healed in ways no one understands, and you keep showing up. That is the greatest revenge. Not silence, not forgetting, but living fully, freely, loudly. So if you're watching this and you've been there, or if you're still there, let me say what someone once said to me. You are not crazy. You are not alone, and your story is far from over. Leave a comment if you've been on this journey too. Or if you just need someone to say, I see you, you made it, like this video. Subscribe to High Day Psych. And remember, healing doesn't mean you erase the past. It means you reclaim your future. And you're already doing